Erev Torah. Interesting Gemara in Masechet Abazara, Daf Chaf, Amud Aleph, talks about something interesting there. I have to give you a little background information, you understand what's going on. So there's a story like this, brought down, that there was this, Rasha, Roman governor. His name was Turnusrufus. This guy's a famous one, So what was the story there? He was a big Rasha. Why we call him such a big Rasha? You know what he did, right? When the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed, that wasn't enough for him, to have satisfaction from that. What he did was he brought, some plowing tools and he plowed the whole Har HaBayit. He plowed it, So like in other words, everything is like totally uprooted. That's what he did, He went over there and plowed it. Can you imagine? Somebody brings a tractor, and plows the whole area. This is what he did. What is the purpose of that? What is that? He hates so much, the Kedusha, the Bet HaMikdash. He doesn't want to see anything from that, even in the ground. Even buried in the ground, he doesn't want to see that. That's why we call him such a big Rasha. Okay, so anyway, right, what happened was that after the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed, this was a generation that Rabbi Akiva was alive when they destroyed the Bet HaMikdash. So what happened was, that afterwards, Turnusrufus, started to hang around with Rabbi Akiva, hang out with him. Hang out. What does he want from this guy? What is he looking for? So, he was a big Rasha, so he was trying to ask difficult questions, to Rabbi Akiva, things that are hard to answer. Torah questions, religion questions. To make fun of him, to mock him, to chide him. That was his whole intention, To make him feel, defeated, downtrodden. This is what he wanted to do. You understand? But the problem was, every time, he would start arguing with Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva would, he was very clever, so he would put him in his place right there, every time. Whenever he would try to, play games, Rabbi Akiva would put him down, in his place. Verbal beat down would give him, That's what he would do, So Turnusrufus started getting, very frustrated with this. It's like, yeah, this, they lost the war, we defeated them. We destroyed the Bet HaMikdash. And they're still, this guy still has a chutzpah with me, talks to me with chutzpah, like this. So he said, enough already, I'm sick of this already. This guy, he doesn't let me say nothing, he always gets the best of me in every argument. Gets very frustrated, So what happened, right? His wife saw him, that he was depressed, down like this, sitting, depression, so she asks him, he says, what's bothering you? Why are you so depressed? You should be happy. So he said, he says, I'm frustrated because of Rabbi Akiva. He says, always, he puts me down, he puts me in my place. He says, I can't take it anymore. I'm sick of it already. So she tells him like this, she says, oh, don't worry. He says, you have a problem with Rabbi Akiva? You got a beef with him? You got a gripe? I'll take care of him, don't worry. I'll do my job, I'll take care of him. What does that mean, take care of him? She said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to disgrace him in front of everybody, All of TikTok is going to know about it, Facebook, right? Instagram, everybody's going to know. I'm going to make a fool out of him, mockery out of him. So what is she going to do? She says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go dress up nice, looking good. She was a beautiful lady. That's what they say, very beautiful lady. So she says, I'm going to dress, nice, I'm going to go to meet him, when he's walking in the street. I'm going to catch him over there. And I'm going to seduce him, I'm going to seduce him. So he's going to look like a fool, like a monkey, rabbi, going with some goya, some shiksa, oh my God, Ay, ay, ay. You know what's going to be? It's going to ruin his reputation, everything. Boom. So what happened, right? She went, and she found him, on the street. He was walking. I guess she knew, right, what time he comes out, what comes in. She was watching him, or whatever, for a while. So what happened was, right, that she sees him in the street, and she looks beautiful, she's a beautiful lady. So Rabbi Akiva sees her, right in front of his face. So he does three things, when he sees her. One is that he chuckles, laughs. Number two, right? He spit. Two. That's what he did. Number 3, cried. Like wept. So this lady, right, comes here to seduce him, you know what I mean? And he sees this rabbi, like going berserk on him, going bonkers on her, like what's going on? What is this guy doing? What happened? He's crazy? He lost his mind? You know what I mean? Lost his sanity? So she tells him, he says, what is it with you? First you laugh, then you cry, and then you spit. Bah! What are you doing? You crazy? So he tells her like this. He says, I'm going to tell you 2 of your questions, but not the third one. Third one I cannot tell you. So what did she tell him? She says, so he tells her like this, right? Tells her, the reason why I spit 2 is because too bad, and also, right, what else did he do? He also cried, right? So he says, the reason why I'm crying is because when you're going to die, right? Lo aleinu. When you're going to die, chaval, we're going to lose such a beautiful woman like this, going in the grave, rotting in the grave. This is the reason why I cried. Waste, right? All the beauty going to waste. That's number 1. Number 2, right? Why did I spit? Because he says, because you're such a beautiful woman, I wanted to kill the Yetzer Hara, not to be attracted to you. 2, you're a goya, you're a shiksa, I can't be attracted to you. You're a shiksa. I mean, give me a break. That's why I spit. 2. When a person spits, what kavanah is like, I don't want to like this thing. I don't want to like it. I want to spit at it, Iksa. That's what he meant to do. So she tells him, what about the third thing? Why did you laugh? Why did you do that? He says, that one I cannot tell you. I'm sorry. It's a secret. Right? Sod. So she gets on his case. You know how women are, right? They get on your case. You know what I mean? When you don't tell them something, they'll bother you for 2 hours, until you tell them. So she gets on his case, he says, Rabbi, come on, tell me, what was it? What did you laugh about? Please, tell me. So he says, okay, I'll tell you, I have no choice, you're pushing me. So he says, you know why I laughed? He says, I saw, he had Ruach HaKodesh, Rabbi Akiva, right? He was a big chacham, big tzaddik, Ruach HaKodesh. So he says, I saw that one day, your husband is going to die. You're going to convert to Judaism and you're going to marry me. That's why I laughed. Can you imagine? And this is what happened, by the way, in the end. In the end, Turnusrufus died, and she married him. She converted him, and he converted her, and he married her. By the way, there's a question about this, There's a few questions we have to ask. One is, number 1, few things we need to understand about this, right? Number 1, it says that there's a halakha like this, right, in the Rambam, brought down. The Rambam says, that when you convert a person, right, a goy, to be a Jew, there's a halakha, it says like this, First you have to check them a little bit, check them out, investigate. What does that mean? Check to see that, she's not, or he's not converting because of marriage. He wants to marry a Jewish person. You know what I mean? And it's not l'shem shemayim, just for marriage, because they fell in love. So if that's the case, right, how did Rabbi Akiva convert her and marry her also? How did he do this? You know what I mean? L'chora, there's like a conflict of interest, as they say, right? Something is not kosher, apparently, to do this way, Why? How did he do that? Number 1.
Pagan, I guess.
Huh?
Pagan.
So what does that mean, pagan?
It's not God. Idols.
I don't know exactly what you mean by that, but anyway, there's also another question, right? It says in the Gemara there, right there in the Gemara there, that a person, is not allowed to look at a beautiful woman, whether she's single or married, whether she's ugly or beautiful, not allowed to look at her for pleasure, to enjoy.
Jewish though.
Even Jewish, doesn't matter. Jewish, not Jewish. So the question is, how did Rabbi Akiva, look at her so nicely like that, to see how beautiful she is, and he's going to convert her and marry her and all that. How did he do all that? Right? That's the question. So a couple of questions coming up over here, right? So you know what the answer is, right? Number one, how did he look at her beauty? She wasn't, he wasn't looking for her, to gaze at her. It's just that, she came right in front of him, So there, it's not really asur. Why? Because you're just walking by somebody, happens to be right in front of you. What are you going to do? Go like this? You don't have to do that. There are some people who try to do these kinds of things, but it's not really the proper behavior, You're walking by somebody, You're walking by, you see them. That's the way it is, that's life. You can't stop something like that. That's the whole thing, right? And also, regarding the issue of Lashem Shamayim, he had Ruach HaKodesh, so he knew that this lady was going to be Lashem Shamayim. And that's why he converted her and married her. And by the way, we learn from here halakha, which is very important. It says in the Bet Yosef like this: when a goy, right, comes to convert, the rabbi, the Bet Din, right, the rabbis there have to ascertain, right, this person's intentions, the kavanah, right, what her intentions are. So a smart rabbi, has to cut through, all the facade and see right down, get to the bottom of it. That's what a smart rabbi has to do. So he has to use his judgment, to see if she's Lashem Shamayim or she's fake. This ger, this gioret, whatever. The rabbi has a job to do that. So that's the thing, that even though the Rambam says that you shouldn't convert a person until you investigate them, to see, right? Whether they're Lashem Shamayim or not, But the rabbi, who's clever, he can figure it out, He knows how to, to speak with her, to motivate her, to say whatever he wants. So this way he knows how to figure out what's going on. That's a smart rabbi, that's what he does. He has to use his judgment for that. There's also another halakha, which is, right, as we said, that you shouldn't convert to marry a Jew, right? This is not Lashem Shamayim, for marriage. He should convert because he loves Hashem, not because you want to marry a Jew, right? But the thing is like this, that even though that's true, but when the rabbi can see, right, that she has two things, this woman, this ger, right? One is she wants to marry a Jewish guy, right? She fell in love with him, but she also wants to do the mitzvot, She wants to do Torah mitzvot. So if she has both of these qualities, then it's allowed, because it doesn't mean, right, that she wants to get married. Something wrong with that. It's just that if her only intention, the main intention is for marriage, this is not L'Shem Shamayim, because she won't keep the mitzvot. Understand? So it really depends on, right? So the rabbi again, right, the Bet Din, the rabbi there has to use his judgment, to see what this woman is about. This man, whatever it is, right? Doesn't matter, man, woman, it's all the same. You have to see what she's about. So this is the reason why Rabbi Akiva was able to do, right, what he did there. And therefore, right, what happened was in the end, the question is, by the way, another question I have to ask you. What happened with Rachel, right? He already had a wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what happened over here? Why did he want to marry this Goya? What's the purpose of that? This Roman lady. Italiano. Right? What do you want from this Italiano? What business you have with her? Daughter of Esav. You know what I mean? What business do you have with her? So I guess it must be, that it doesn't say this in the Gemara, but we have to assume, that Rachel probably died, before he married this lady. She probably passed away. Because otherwise, what reason did he have to take another wife? In those days, it was allowed to have two wives. It was allowed. But still, what did he need her for? You know what I mean? What was the purpose of that? The truth is, in those days, you could take as many wives as you want. But the thing is, I heard from somebody, told me, a very keen observation. He said, that if you look in the Talmud, Mishnah and Gemara, you don't find over there, right, rabbis who had many wives. You don't find that very often, It's almost non-existent. So what's the reason for that? The reason must be, that even though the rabbis were allowed to do this in those days, but they knew it wasn't such a great thing to do, to have more than one wife. It's not so great. I mean, whatever. So therefore, the minhag was in those days already, they didn't marry two wives. So the Chora, we have to say that probably Rachel passed away, she died. Just like, Yaakov Avinu, right? Rachel died. Same thing over here, right? She probably died, and that was it. And so he needed to get married. That was the whole thing. He had to marry somebody. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen. Rabbi Chanan Gashamer, it's Kodesh Baruch Hu Lozek Yisrael. לפיך יקבע עליהם מצוות שנאמר בני חפץ למען צדקו יגדיר תורה ויאדיר.